Okay, I'm just going to do the last couple problems here for you for probability. I do want to right away refer you to the other video that I made on this that covers much more in depth, but here's one last review for a test on probability. Going back to Venn diagrams, imagine for a moment we have piano here and violin and the zither, strange instrument. 1, 2, 3, 7, 0, 2, 8, 5, and let's say that they asked what's the probability given that the person plays the zither that they also play the violin. Well, given they play the zither, then you would narrow it down to just them. And that's what's possible, and that goes at the bottom of your fraction. 7 plus 8 is 15, plus 3 is 18. And then, given that, what's the probability they play the violin? Now I can only choose from those numbers I circled. So within those, these are the ones that are violin. A lot of people try to include the 2's, and that would be wrong. So those are the ones, the 3 and the 0, and those go on top, so the final answer would be 3 out of 18. All right, there's a quick Venn diagram typical question. The charts I think are so easy, I'm just going to pass right over those. Let's do blanks for a minute. Let's say that you had to find a number that's bigger than 7,000. How many choices are there? Well, you think of it as choices and blanks being multiplied. Bigger than 7,000. Well, this can't be a 7 or a 6 or a 5 or a 4. It has to be bigger than 7,000, so that would have to be an 8. Like an 8, a 9, or just an 8 or a 9. There's only 2 choices for that one. Now, how many choices for the other ones? If this number in front is like a 8, for instance, then it won't matter what this digit is, or that digit is, or that digit is. So I can have any digit there. So I can say 10 choices for this, 10 choices for that, and 10 choices for that. The only exception would be if they said, and the number can't have any repeating digits in it. Then I would say, I don't care what the first number is, but, I need the first number to be only 2 choices for that, because it has to be either an 8 or a 9. And this is, again, assuming the number is 8,000 or bigger. If I said 7,000 before, you'd have 7, 8, or 9, 3 choices. Anyway, then for this next one, I've used up a choice. So don't have 10 numbers to choose from. 0 through 9 is 10 choices normally. But I used one up right there. So now it's not 10, it's 9. And then this would be 8, and this would be 7. That assumes that we couldn't repeat digits. That's a typical blanks question. Okay, now let's do a typical CC over C. This would be typically a card question, where they ask, what is the probability that given I am dealt 5 cards, there's 52 cards in the deck, choose 5, goes in the bottom, 5. And then let's say it's the probability, given I'm dealt 5 cards, that I get 3 clubs and 2 hearts. Well, there's 13 clubs in the deck, and if I get 3 clubs and 2 hearts, there's 13 hearts in the deck, choose 2. You could stop right there, because I've got all my numbers represented. A 3 and the 2 make 5, but these don't add up to 52. You could include also, say, 13 choose 0, and 13 choose 0 for the last types of things like clubs, spades, hearts, diamonds, that I don't want any of. Okay, so these are kind of optional at the end. What you do is allow these numbers, this plus this plus this plus this, to add up to 52. All right, so that's a CC over C type question. Now let's do one where we have a percentage given, like let's say he's an 80% free throw shooter. All right, this type of question, if you have an 80% free throw shooter, then he's a 20% free throw misser, make, miss, and I have a C in front of it. Now let's say that I have 10 shots. You would think if you're an 80% free throw shooter, you'd make 8 out of 10. But let's do, what's the probability that he's going to make at least 9 shots out of 10? Well, if you're taking 10 shots, you put a 10 here. And if I want 9 out of 10, I'd go like this. 9 makes and 1 miss. But if I want at least 9, that means 9 or 10. 10C10. And then a 0.80 to the 10th, and then a 0.20, and I'd find out this answer and this answer and I would add them together, because if it's something or something, then you can add those probabilities. All right, so then my grand total would be whatever these two decimals come up to be. That's my probability of making at least 9 shots. Let's turn it around and say, what's the probability of making at least 1 shot? Well, at least 1 shot means that we think that we're going to have, out of 10 shots, that we're going to make 1, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6, or 7. And if you do that, you'll have to figure it out for every one of them. Figure it out for 1, 10 see 1 make, 9 misses. And then you have to do it again for 2, and again for 3, and you add them all up. But there's a smarter way. If you want to find that, you would say, instead of at least 1, that's going to mean not 0. And not means you take 1 minus whatever your answer is for 0. 10 shots, choosing to make 0. 0 makes 10 misses. Figure this out and get that decimal and subtract it from 1. I'll warn you, it's a tiny probability because this one that I circled here is tiny. So when you take 1 minus that tiny number, it almost is still equal to 1. Because if you think about it, if you're an 80% free throw shooter, aren't you going to make at least 1? Yeah, you're like almost certain to make at least 1. So your answer is very close to the perfect 1 probability. Okay, so your test covers more than that, of course. I encourage you to do the practice worksheets. There's great Schoology quizzes there that you can do for practice. There's answer keys. There's so many resources. And you can always come in the morning and work with your teachers to ask extra questions. So that's all the extra review I have for you for probability for today.